What's up, my friends? Welcome to the You Are the Rockstar show. It's been a hot minute since I've done an episode, and I'm getting back to it. Somebody told me recently that most podcasts don't survive past 8 episodes, if even that. And I'm not about that life. So we're here. And the past 3 episodes I've done more interview style, but I'm going to introduce a different style of podcast, which is a little bit more monologue conversation with me. And then I'll do the interviews with people as well. But thank you for tuning in. Thanks for just being in general, being alive, being present, embracing the being and human being. I don't think it's something we put enough focus on. Honestly, I like to get ahead of my to-do list. And by that, I just mean put my success and my happiness in front of all the things I got to do. So I don't know if that resonates with you or not, but been feeling a little bit scattered and chaotic, a lot of really intense energy going on in the world, as well as in my mind, which it's funny how things are reflective of each other in that regard. But yeah, I'm here and I want to share a quick meditation with you because I think it'd be a fun way to start this off, since this is a lot more organic and just a drop-in from me to you. And you can listen to all the, fun, sultry, relaxing tones of my voice. If any of you haven't listened to my audiobooks, maybe you should, because you can get your full dosage there, but this will just be a quickie. So I just want you to relax where you're at. If you're driving or doing something that, your physical safety is essentially being thrown to the wind, don't do this. But if you're in a comfortable, safe space, even if it's not particularly comfortable, make it comfortable. And relax. By relax, I just mean close your eyes, allow your shoulders to relax down, let your tongue fall from the roof of your mouth. Notice if you're holding on to any tension here. Can you relax a little bit deeper? Awesome. Now take a nice big breath in from your nose. And then a slower breath out from your mouth. Another one of those big breath in from your nose, lift on up. And then gently deflate, relax, and let that air fall from your mouth as you exhale. Another big breath in here. And the slowest exhale you possibly can, let it go. Awesome. Now you can chill here and just listen to my voice if you'd like, or you can open your eyes. But I figured that would be a fun way to drop in and just initiate, if you will, with an intention of relaxation and kind of present moment reflection, if you will, as we start this. So what I want to talk about today is something that somebody asked me recently. They asked me where I experienced the most magic in my life. And I thought that was really cool to at least think about for me personally, because I was like, whoa, well, on stage, I experienced magic. I experienced magic like doing yoga. I experienced magic doing all these things. But then I remembered the place that I find the most magic is in the relationships I have in my life. And that's just been true time and time again. See, it's taken me to get around people who see something in me that I can't see in myself to actually up level. And what I mean by that is when I was first starting out, just playing music, I beat myself up thinking I wasn't good enough. It actually became a story that I carried with me for quite some time. But I just allowed some things that happened in my past, like being chosen last for certain sports teams, or being left out of things like parties and whatnot with friends when I was younger, to create the subconscious belief patterning that I was not good enough. And I carried that with me into music. And I, for the longest time, just would beat myself up and look at the ground when I was playing live and just not really connect with the audience. And if anyone's been to our shows, they know that I like to make eye contact. So clearly I have no issues now with connecting with people on stage, but it wasn't always like that. And I did allow myself to feel very inferior, very insignificant when when I would play on stage. And also when I would just be in conversations, I had trouble speaking up. I had trouble just essentially sharing my truth. I didn't even know what my truth was. Like, what the hell does that even mean? Like I didn't know what I believed in. And I was kind of just at the will of the universe, and whichever flow it decided to like put me in, as if it was an ocean going back and forth. I was just kind of like, in that, without imposing my will on it, and being willing to stand in my own power. So respect to anyone who feels that struggle from time to time. It's real. And one way that we can get out of it is to get around people that see things in us that we don't see in ourselves. And when I started hanging out with people in California, some of my really, really good friends, they started seeing me for something greater than I could see in myself. I would introduce myself as, a yogi before I would introduce myself as a musician, because I just identified with that part of my life more. Just because I had allowed that, that past subconscious patterning to create this belief system in my life that I wasn't good enough in regards to music. And so I would show up places with certain friends of mine, some of my best friends, and they would introduce me as this phenomenal musician. And so many times I would correct them and be like, well, I'm a musician, but I'm a yogi. That's what I would identify with mainly, which was really ironic, right? Especially in LA, because everyone's either, usually a yogi. And then now I live in Nashville and everyone's a musician, which is funny. But that's besides the point. So anyways, my friends kept reflecting something that they saw in me that I didn't see in myself. And this is so important, to get around people that provide this mirror-like reflection for your higher self and your greater self. And it can be difficult to sometimes find people like this in our lives. I do understand that. So if you feel like you don't have those people in your life, just know that they're closer than you think. And one way that we can all attract more of that level of connection in our life is to practice our yes. It's really important to say yes to opportunities. It's really important to say and commit to things, sometimes without knowing what the meaning behind them is actually going to be. For example, I said yes to be interviewed on a podcast a number of years ago when I was beginning to write my first book. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And I said yes to a podcast with somebody I didn't know. I thought we were going to talk about band stuff. I thought we were going to talk about music business and just our last night. First question he asks me, so you're into law of attraction and mindfulness and yoga. I want to hear more about that. Can you tell me about your story? And I was like, what? I thought we were talking about music and all this stuff. And then he immediately starts talking my bread and butter. And so then we just hit it off. And I then found out that he was a published author himself. And after the call, he was like, yo, I want to introduce you to my editor. And if you guys hit it off, maybe he could help you, create your book and bring it to fruition. So I was like, okay, cool. Had a call with his editor. We hit it off. And he's been the editor of my books that I've released within the last year and a half. And so that's what I mean by saying yes. Of course, there's going to be the argument that can be brought to exercise your no, because if you say yes to everything, you give away your energy too much. But what I'm saying is, when you set an intention, like writing a book, or you set an intention like calling in a soul family or a group of friends or a friend that sees you for something greater than you are, you set that intention in your mind and then keep it in your mind. Maybe you revisit it every once in a while. I'm a fan of writing it down and keeping it somewhere you see a lot. Then start to observe the opportunities that come your way. It could be an introduction through a friend. It could be a random Instagram message. It could happen in any number of ways. Just know that when you set that intention, you place your order. You essentially tell the universe what you like. And the more that you go about living with that intentionality and that little nugget in your mind, you start to be aware of situations that bring it into fruition. And by bringing to fruition, there is action there. And the action that I'm referring to in this moment is saying yes. So if anyone's feeling like they don't have their soul family or people that can essentially see them for something greater than they see themselves, practice saying yes and set the intention of calling those kind of people into your life, because it's a real thing. The mind is powerful. And if you put your focus on something, you will attract it into your life, whether it's negative or positive. tends to give you what you ask for. So I would recommend a little bit of clarity there too, because if you start asking for a lot of growth and everything, the universe is like, oh, you ready? Here you go. And you get all sorts of crazy growth you weren't trying to experience. That's really intense. So now I found it very, very helpful to ask for effortless and ease and grace in growth. So just a little nugget there, little disclaimer. But as you say yes to opportunities, you start to attract people into your life, opportunities that will then allow you to up level, because it's hard to see the good in ourselves all the time. It's hard to see the magic that we create. And when we get around these kind of people and we put the effort in to develop those relationships continuously over time, you start to develop the magic, and the magic is created more and more and more. And then you have people that can remind you of the magic in case you forget it within yourself. And I don't know if there's anything really more valuable than a connection with somebody who can help you see something you can't see in yourself. At least in this moment, like when we're talking about craziness of the mind, when we're talking about, things going through our head that we're just like really stuck in our like mental. I don't know if there's that much more that could be valuable than having somebody who can help you realign where you're at and get back on track. And for some people, it could be a therapist. I've talked to mine quite a bit about this. And for other people, it could just be a friend or a family member. I've experienced this similarly in a men's group that I'm a part of. I was heavily involved in LA when I was living there. And it was pretty much psychotherapy, just a sharing circle where everyone shares from non-judgment and love, and hold space for each person to just be transparent and honest about what they're grateful for and what they're struggling with. And by holding space, I just mean legitimately choosing to be present, and allows for that growth, that healing to be found in the reflections that are given from everyone who shares, because everyone reflects upon what is shared by each person. And that kind of connection, that kind of relationship is like therapy. So by saying yes to opportunities, whether it's somebody invites you to this event or connects you with a person or invites you to lunch or something like that, can open the gateway for these people to essentially help create these magical experiences in our lives. And that's why I've found the most magic in my life through connections with people, because, we are all mirrors, and everyone we meet is a mirror. So if you are triggered by someone, chances are, I don't know if you're triggered by that person, you're probably triggered by the relationship you have with whatever they're bringing to the table, whether it's you're triggered by something they do, something they wear, something they say. That's more on you than it is on them, because you haven't worked on yourself enough. So that's just the truth right there, right at you. So, so if you're triggered by me saying that, deal with it. Look inside, maybe go meditate again, start this video over again. But yeah, I just want these to be short, and I just want them to be organic. So I'm just going to drop in real quick and just share some little nuggets. And one nugget that I want to share before I let you guys go is from the introduction in my book. And so this is my first book right here, You Are the Rock Star. If you're listening to the audio of this, I'm holding my book up in my hands, and it feels great. I actually have a hardcover of it right behind me too, that just came out on Amazon. I'm super stoked on that. It feels very good. But there's a quote in the introduction to my first book, You Are the Rock Star, that just says, who you are is more important than what you have. And I really want to just unpack that a little bit, because we put so much importance on the things that we own, and not as much importance, I don't find personally, on essentially who we are. And what I mean by that is where we choose to place value and create meaning is this is what I see a lot, is more on tangible physical things than on the more, I guess, deep connections, the deep relationships with ourselves and other people, which relates exactly to what I was talking about earlier with relationships being the most magical things that I experience in my life, because we choose where we create the meaning and the value. And so if we're saying who you are is more important than what you have, what we're really saying is that the relationship you have with you the ability you have to connect, to develop the relationship with you and with others is way more important than the things you have in your life. And I'm just going to share a quick story real quick. But I was talking to my mom the other day, and I just went to go visit my grandfather for Father's Day. And she went to go visit her dad for Father's Day as well. And it was inspired by my dad was also going to visit my grandfather. So I was like, hey, let's just do, like Father's Day, let's all meet up. It'll be great. And it was amazing. It was beautiful. And I was talking to my mom briefly, and we were talking about money and stuff, and like, just trying to make sure we're coming from a balanced perspective when it comes to like spending money and whatnot, which is a conversation that we have quite frequently. And I was just saying, Mom, you don't remember what was in your bank account when you choose to do stuff like this. You don't look back after the experience of hanging out with someone that is a friend or a family member on a special day and think back and say, you know what, I had this much money in my bank account. Instead, you think about the time you had, the relationship that you developed, that you cultivated, that you facilitated deeper connection, or just hung out, which is it does the same thing. And it was something that I thought about for a bit after we talked on the phone, and it reminded me of this one time on Warped Tour. And this one time we were on Warped Tour, and it was towards the end of the tour. For some reason, they booked like 2 New Mexico shows on that Warped Tour back in, I think it was 2017. And we had like 3 days off before one of them, and then like 2 days off after. And my family does a beach vacation every year up in Maine. We've been doing for over 20 years. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I might just dip out and then tell the guys like, hey, this is really important to me. I really want to go be present with my family. And, maybe we can find somebody to fill in on bass for me for that show. And we ended up discussing it, and then everyone decided they didn't really want to play the show either. They kind of wanted to drop in with their families because we've been gone on tour for over a month, almost 2 months at that time. So we made that decision. Now, I just flew in and surprised my family and showed up and walked up from the beach and just surprised them all while they were hanging out on our vacation. And I'll always remember walking up and then my dad getting choked up, my mom getting choked up that I was there because I surprised them, and it was super cool. But then I walked in the house and walked around the corner into the kitchen, and my grandmother was standing there, and she was very poised, always the OG yogi of the family, very poised, not super outspoken. And she just looked and said, "Oh, isn't that nice?" And just smiled and gave me a big hug. And the reason that was so meaningful to me was because I was the last grandkid to arrive at the beach that year. And 3 or 4 days later, she was admitted to hospice. And within like a week and a half, 2 weeks, she passed away. And you can get me emotional on this thing real quick. But that's what I mean in regards to investing in you rather than things, and investing in people and experiences, and who you are being more important than what you have. Because I don't remember how much money was in my bank account when I made that decision. I don't remember essentially what struggles financially or lack of I had at the time. All I remember is booking a flight from Houston to Boston and taking a bus to Maine, and then showing up on the beach and surprising my family and hanging out with my grandmother for the last time in her life experience in her body before she went into spirit. So whoever's listening to this, I hope this provides value for you today. I don't really believe in coincidences. I believe in synchronicities. So if you're listening to this, I think there's a reason you're listening to it. And I hope that, just that little sentence of who you are is more important than what you have is something you can carry with you for a while. And it's been something really deeply meaningful for me in my life, and how I make choices and how I continue to choose to show up. So I'll leave you guys with that one. Thank you again for showing up. I'm going to do a little bit more of these moving forward, because I ain't about that only showing up a couple times life. So I know I've only done a couple of these podcast, but this is number 4. And I appreciate all of you. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being the rock star of your life. And if you are interested in picking up either copies of my books, I have 2 of them, of course. You Are the Rock Star, Step into Your Power, and Live Your Purpose, followed by this one's a beta version right now. If you're listening to this, you can't see it, but if you're watching it, then you can see it, but it's got a line through it because it's not for resale. It's VIP, but this is a hardcover of Financial Flow, my second You Are the Rockstar book, all about abundance mindset. So if those interest you, head over to Amazon, or you can check them out on Audible and listen to me speak them to you. But I love you guys. I appreciate you all. Thanks for tuning into this organic monologue conversation for the You Are the Rockstar show, episode 4. Look forward to doing more of these, and keep doing you. You Are the Rockstar. Talk to you guys soon.